Thomas Flyer Flyabout, K670, 1910. Like so many of his pioneering contemporaries, Irwin Ross, E.R., Thomas was in the bicycle business prior to manufacturing automobiles. During the 1890s, E.R. was the managing director for H.A. Lozier and Company, who produced the famous Cleveland bicycle. However, he recognized the huge potential in the newly evolving automobile business and left Lozier to take over the Buffalo Automobile and Autoby Company, which was known for its production of bicycles and motorcycle engines. In 1900, E.R. changed the company name to Thomas Autoby, and by 1901 Thomas claimed to build more air-cooled motors than anyone else. E.R. had bigger things in mind, however, and the first Thomas automobiles were introduced in 1903, small runabouts described in the catalog as the happy medium between the cheaper and more expensive cars. By 1905 the Thomas Company was building bigger four-cylinder cars dubbed Thomas Flyers. Thomas Flyers soon gained notoriety among the faster and more flamboyant touring cars of their day. E.R. had an eye for flair, and his huge powerful cars showed it. They were often finished in bright colors and loaded with many ornate brass accessories. The 1907 sales catalog boasted, "You can't go buy a Thomas Flyer, so go buy one." The Thomas name endures and is most readily remembered for its most astounding victory in one of the greatest automotive competition events of the time. The 1908 Le Mans sponsored the great race. The route went from New York, in the dead of winter, across the U.S. to San Francisco, then by ship to Alaska, and across the Bering Strait, either by ship or by ice to Siberia. To be certain that the Yukon and the Bering Strait would be covered in ice, the race purposely began in the winter. Many of the dirt-covered trails had never been traveled by a motorcar. E.R. Thomas made a last-minute decision to enter a car, and 3 days prior to the start, a stock 1907 model was selected from the factory lot. 13,341 miles and 171 days later, the victorious Thomas rolled into Paris and forever cemented its place in history. The following year Thomas moved into six-cylinderism, the territory which luxury manufacturers were now pushing as the ultimate in performance and refinement: Napier, Pierce Arrow, Rolls-Royce, to name but a few. For Thomas, they simply extended their existing four with 2 extra cylinders, but owing to their mammoth 5-inch bore, this pushed the engine size out to 12.9 liters and provided more than 70 horsepower. At this point, this was by far the largest engine available and remains one of the largest in an ever to be fitted to an American production automobile. The new 6 commanded the designation Model K or 670 for logical reasons, and Thomas priced it at $6,000 in touring form, with options of 7-passenger touring, Tourabout or Flyabout. Of the handful of options for these chassis, the Flyabout was by far the most sporting and effectively a Thomas branding for a Toyota. Sitting on a 140-inch wheelbase, it was a gargantuan car even among its peers. Yet, despite its scale, the square engine dimensions of 5 by 5 inches and with 4-speed transmission provided a very tractable and lively engine performance, the engine revving higher and with a broader power band than many of its longer-stroked contemporaries. Perhaps owing to lessons learned on their trials around the world, ignition came from a belt and braces system of coil and magneto. In the 670, Thomas had truly created a large and sporting car. In terms of performance it was hard to eclipse, and for this reason it has remained one of the greats in folklore ever since. They have long been the ultimate for the serious collector and are prized for their looks, size, charisma, and greatly appreciated for their driving characteristics.